Let's go, everybody, with another episode of the Nick Cage Fight podcast, where we sift through a bunch of bad movies looking for little nuggets of gold. We do this because we heard there's great wealth and opportunity in the hills to the west. I am one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by my fellow miners, Rich and Ryan. Not miners age-wise, but we're panning those hills for gold. How are we doing tonight, guys?
I'm staunching an eye wound with a piece of bread.
That's something I should probably do.
We've all been shot in the eye with a BB gun.
Real Christmas story, full circle there. Although the kid shot somebody else's eye out, so I'm not sure the moral lesson stands either.
Yeah,
way.
I don't think so.
We're here to wrap up as best as we can the Humanity Bureau, the 2017 R-rated Nick Cage film that did this even get a theatrical release?
Yes, at least in Japan, I know that much.
And it did in Europe as well.
Wait, this was R?
Mm-hmm.
The hell happens in this that makes it an R? This is like a PG-13 at best.
Yeah, maybe subject matter. I don't know.
I mean, there's some implied cannibalism, but that's about it.
Where's the cannibalism in it?
When she's talking about how, well, okay,
people would eat
spoilers.
their neighbors.
Eat their neighbors.
Yeah, you're right.
And they were trying to sell
line.
the kid. I know, like I said, a little bit of implied cannibalism, which is better than no cannibalism.
True. But I think it's what we're gonna be getting to with the opening scene here. So where we last left our intrepid heroes, they had just been helped out by Brian from Brian's Gas, and made good their escape into the barren hills of Nevada, I guess. But we go back to the Bureau, and the Bureau is trying to figure out how to handle this situation. So he gets two new bureaucrats in, Grill and Agent Baldy, who's now sporting an eye patch. And they're basically like, you got to shut this shit down, and if you don't, maybe you'll end up at New Eden, Agent Baldy. And there's a pallet of cardboard boxes in front of the guy, and he cuts one open. And then inside is a bag, and he cuts open the bag and he fishes around in this dusty white powder and pulls something out. And the thing that he pulls out apparently is a child's tooth. He has the other bureaucrat identify it and then show it to Agent Baldy and say he had this brought here to serve as a message. So the implication is pretty much out in the open that New Eden is some type of extermination camp. Right. That's how you get dust in child's teeth, right? I don't know what else they could possibly be implying here. So that's where we are.
Yeah, that's what I took it as. I mean, it was already being hit, like you're already being like hit pretty hard over the head with that information now.
If you didn't guess it in the first 5 minutes, just maybe this isn't the movie for you. Or maybe this is the movie for you, and it'll come across as sophisticated as it wants to be. I don't know. But secret's out now, essentially. So we learned that Noah's plan is to take the Wellers to the Canadian lake that he used to fish at as a child, despite being told earlier in the movie that those kind of lakes don't exist no more because of the war and climate change and things. Agent Baldy tosses Noah's apartment for clues where they might be headed. Originally, I thought he noticed that the postcard for the fishing lake was missing from a corkboard because they do suspiciously pan over it and Baldy looking at it and then leaving the apartment. But it turns out, no, he found something that leads him to Elevator Resistance Guy. At this point, we cut back to Noah and the Wellers trading in the El Camino for an old station wagon and some food and water. Cut back. Agent Baldy is in the elevator with the resistance guy and basically threatens him. He's like, I know about your wife. I know about your kid. You're going to tell me what you told Noah and what's going on and so on and so forth. And resistance guy says, basically, I told him the truth about New Eden. And Agent Baldy goes, go back home where your wife and kid are waiting for you. And then we get a scene of a woman and a child beaten to death and their throats slit open. But we never see what happens to Elevator Guy after this.
And there is no emotional impact at all from that. None whatsoever.
Nope. Falls genuinely flat.
I do want to shout out that the station wagon apparently smells funny, and that keeps coming back up. I keep thinking of the Simpsons episode where Homer makes the mattress like tunnel. Milhouse is coming out of it. It smells funny in there. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, so that's elevator resistance guy. Noah and the Wellers are continuing to head north. Now, the lady that they traded the El Camino and the watch into for the station wagon, some food, and some helpful advice is there might be a guy up in the hills that could give them directions that could potentially help them cross the border into Canada. And again, not like 4 minutes on screen later, there's a weird ambush. Like they're sort of driving along this road with the back of the station wagon open and the kids sort of sitting on the back. A truck crashes across their path, causes them to stop. The kid gets swiped out of the back of the station wagon by a slightly larger kid, some kind of teenager, and an old man sort of confronts them from up on a ridge. The whole thing is settled without anybody getting shot, which makes no fucking sense. But we cut right from there to an amicable sit down with weird old guy and two semi-feral teenagers. Noah,
this is a guy who needs to make it clear that he is German.
Yes, this is the German guy. And Noah asks him for help getting across the border. We get a little bit of story about the German guy who apparently was here with his family on vacation when everything went to shit. That's as much as I gathered from it, from his story, because he's like, oh yeah, I was here on vacation with my parents, and then that didn't go so well, and then things afterwards went even worse. So he does, however, provide them with a map and a very old Geiger counter, saying that they're going to have to pass through some pretty irradiated areas to try and make it to the across the Canadian border. The kid sort of bonds with the feral teenagers. They do war paint on his face since they're sort of painted up like that as well, while the old guy sort of regales Noah and Rachel with some tips about the trip north and how dangerous it will be. Really emphasizes that anybody that they run into will be hostile and will rape them. Really emphasizes that threat too. Doesn't come into play at any point in the movie, thankfully. But he does also give them iodine tablets because they're going to need that when they pass through the radiation zones and so on and so forth. He essentially tells them, as soon as you see the old nuclear power plant cooling towers, start taking the iodine. Meanwhile, Agent Baldy is going through the Weller's house. Again, I'm assuming searching for some sort of clue as to where they could be going. But what he does find is a card with Rachel Weller's face on it. It's a ration card, and the name on it is Amanda Douglas. So Rachel isn't Rachel. Rachel's Amanda, apparently.
Will the real Rachel Dwellers please stand up?
Yes.
I still can't believe that was a line in this fucking movie.
I
was.
I absolutely can. It's got ham for hands.
Good old ham hands film. Rachel expresses some misgivings about this trip north and how it's dangerous and how they should just go back, and they can, you can blame everything on me and we'll just get resettled and it'll be fine. And Noah's like, nah, it's a bad idea. And then they set off in the morning, waving goodbye to Adolf Schroeder was the old German guy's name, and the two feral teenagers. At this point, we get another scene of Agent Baldy doing some weird shit. So this was one of the things that I found odd as to how the supposed degradation of society is working. So Noah has like a bunch of famous museum quality paintings in his apartment, and now we get Agent Baldy swimming in an indoor swimming pool in what looks to be some like YMCA knockoff. He's the only guy in the pool. They don't even have lights on in the room. And Agent Porter goes in to give him a report on what he has found about Amanda Douglas. And it sounds like Amanda supposedly died, but they clearly know that she is alive and took the identity of Rachel Weller.
Hold on, we are not glossing over the fact that he is so proud that this is a timeshare, and
yes. Yes. Baldy explicitly says, he goes, I come here once a month, Agent Porter, even if I don't want to. It's a timeshare, you see. And I'm not going to tell you how much I spend on it because it'd make you sick. And then there's a really weird part where he's like, "Come on, Porter, you want to get in the pool?" And Agent Porter is like, "No, I'm worried about drowning." I'm just gonna point out Agent Porter is black, so I'm not sure if this scene is racist.
I don't think it's intended to be. I think it's intended to imply that most people of a certain age
don't know
how to swim because of the lack of water, because of the natural disasters.
So it's just ham-fisted, accidentally stumbling its way into a sort of racist scene that is supposed to give us context about the world building.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think the context is in the line after, is when he says, the trick to swimming is you have to hold your breath before you go underwater. So I think that's the world building, that people don't understand that that's what you have to do to go swimming.
But none of this makes sense. The movie came out in 2017. They haven't made Cars in 30 years. Is the year 2000 when everything was supposed to have been destroyed?
I think so, yeah.
Well, no, because there's President Donald Trump.
Yeah. Again, this movie is not, they did not storyboard out this timeline at all.
No, just make it like 2090. So many things could just be forgotten.
2090 would be fine, but they explicitly tell you
that it's 2030.
That it's 2030. Anyway,
I was thinking that maybe they were referring to the specific make and model, the El Camino, for the haven't made in 30 years, but that doesn't make any fucking sense. They haven't made those since 1987.
Yeah, and he says they haven't made cars in 30 years. Maybe he's just bad at placing himself in time. He's just like me for real.
I was going to say, maybe he's got that whole the 90s were 10 years ago syndrome.
Yeah, I still have that.
Yeah, that makes him much more relatable. So Noah and the Wellers are on the road, and we get to learn a little bit about Noah's past. Why? Who fucking knows? But we essentially learn his mother died when he was 12, and he ended up at an orphanage, and he never knew his father. Oh, and apparently the person he's been seeing in the flashbacks fishing is just literally verbatim, some guy his mom knew. His mom has not been in these flashback scenes at all. It's just some dude and him fishing on the end of the pier. So yeah, I think that's weird. Around this time, Agent Baldy learns that Amanda was the real Rachel Weller's neighbor, and their records, and this doesn't really make much sense either, their records indicate that Lucas was put into her custody in lieu of next of kin. So that is formalized somewhere, which doesn't make sense because this woman took this person's identity. So why do they have records of this in the first place? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not positive.
Don't ask
because
questions.
it seems to be in a place they don't keep good records. And they also say, oh, it was a famine year, so there really aren't a whole lot of records.
Also, there was a lot of mass graves and shit, right? In a famine year. So while they're on their way north, Noah and crew get spotted by a military drone. Maybe they hunker down. But word gets back to the Bureau that a military drone that they don't have control over and the military won't help them with, explaining some sort of weird division in the overall government structure of this place that, again, they do not expand upon at all. They wait out the drone, and at this point, Lucas reveals that the bandit teenagers told him that New Eden is a death camp. And when Rachel / Amanda tells Noah to, correct the record here, he goes, no, that's basically it. That's what I found out about. We get a flashback to when he first ran that data card, and we learn that New Eden is essentially a massive gas chamber with 6 crematoriums attached to it, and that's what happens to everybody they ship off there. So there's that. And Noah gets out of the car, and Rachel walks out to confront him. And this is where we get another bizarre, unexplained plot twist that has a whole lot of Deus Ex Machina into the entire plot of the film, just dropped unceremoniously like a turd on a serving platter. We find out that Noah knew Rachel Weller and knows that Amanda is not Rachel at all.
And he never mentioned this previously.
Nope.
Not once.
Nope. Also meaning that Lucas is his kid, but I'm not sure if they reference it in this scene or not.
I don't think that's revealed yet.
Yeah,
I don't think it's technically revealed until the showdown at the end.
it is revealed before that. They have some conversation at night. I was just not sure if my notes didn't indicate that.
Oh, right. When they have the fire that would have clearly shown their location to anybody that was looking for them. Yeah. Okay. I remember that now.
So they're back on the road, and then we get another scene that has no impact whatsoever. There's a single solitary Humanity Bureau SUV on their trail. So they pull off to the side. Noah gets out with his submachine gun, fires into the windshield. The SUV crashes, and they go back about their way. No consequences. That's just a scene that they thought needed to be in there.
Because it's cool.
Then they stop in an abandoned factory because Noah wants to take a look under the hood of the car. I don't know if the car was riding rough or something. No real setup for this.
He said it was running hot.
Yeah,
he did mention it overheating. Yeah.
Lucas goes off in search of a place to poop, which I do actually appreciate this film, because in thrillers or action movies, they rarely address the main character's need to use the bathroom at regular intervals. And in apocalyptic America, you got to figure no clean water and no upkeep of plumbing. This could be an issue. But luckily for Lucas, whatever weird abandoned factory they're in actually has a restroom for employees. So it's like a public restroom. So he goes in there. Noah is informed by Rachel/Amanda that, she sent Lucas off to find a place to use the bathroom by himself. And Noah's like, well, I need water anyway. I will go find him. Agent Baldy is in the bathroom, ambushes Lucas there. When Noah goes to enter the bathroom, Agent Baldy shoots at him. So Noah just fucking runs away, which is amazing. More Bureau goons show up, and there's a very funny scene in which Noah is running across an open factory floor while 3 people with automatic weapons fire at him, and he takes single pot shots with a handgun. He doesn't get... Go ahead.
I don't know what the fuck is going on in this scene. He could have just finished drowning that kid in the bathroom. He started to drown that kid in the bathroom, and then Nick Cage runs away, saying that he'll be back to save him, even though that kid's like 15 seconds out from dying, essentially. But he just doesn't finish the job. This is like, I don't get it.
Nothing in this scene makes any real narrative sense.
No.
So Noah escapes all of the automatic gunfire, and Rachel/Amanda runs out and just mows all of the agents down with Noah's submachine gun, which is kind of funny. Noah and Rachel/Amanda get in the car and just drive off out of the factory with Lucas in the hands of Agent Baldy with no apparent plan. The kid Lucas... So Agent Baldy marches him back to the main floor where he sees some dead agents and I guess some remaining alive agents. And the kid has stolen or pickpocketed a prosthetic eye from Agent Baldy.
Which is never mentioned prior to this.
Never mentioned, and Baldy has an eye patch.
It's not a pretty sick eye patch.
Wear the eye.
Got to shout out that eye patch. That eye patch whips ass.
It is a cool eye patch. It's like a Morpheus eye patch. There's no string. It's just like stickied to his face. But Lucas pulls out the eyeball that Agent Baldy isn't losing. He's like, hey, give me that. And Lucas like drops it down some steps. And then Agent Baldy lets him run down the steps to get it. And then he goes through some weird like fucking service duct outside the factory. Right when Noah and Amanda Rachel are backing the station wagon up, and he pops out of the grate outside of the factory. They just keep from hitting him with the car, and he gets in and they drive off.
And
makes
scene.
No fucking sense.
Very unnecessary scene. Did not need to be there.
No.
There's an alternate universe where this scene makes sense and could have been cool, but I don't think the filmmakers were up to actually directing or writing or choreographing action at all.
Or just a logical progression of events. It's just complete nonsense. All bets are off. There are no rules, which is fine. Whatever. If you've made it through this far in the movie, you should know better to ask questions or expect any sort of coherence, in my opinion. But they make camp that night, and then we get the rest of the Rachel Amanda backstory. Turns out, Amanda was Rachel's neighbor, and Rachel, the real Rachel, wanted to sell Lucas when he was 2. Amanda stepped in to stop it, but things got violent, and Rachel ended up dead. So Amanda killed Rachel and stole her baby. It's Now, granted, Rachel wanted to sell her baby, so who's to say who's right here?
It's a post-apocalypse. It's shit like this is just going to happen, I guess.
Somebody wanted to eat a California cheeseburger.
That is odd, as gruesome as that is the least gruesome potentiality in the sale of a child. So regardless, Rachel's dead. Amanda is the new Rachel. Lucas was not old enough to remember any of this, so he thinks that Amanda is his real mother.
Why change your name then? Just keep your old name and just change his name to Lucas, whatever the fuck your last name is. Why
Douglas.
go through this?
I don't know. Maybe Rachel had a nicer place.
It might have to do with the kid having like paperwork or some shit for the ration card. That's my only guess.
I guess.
Stop trying to apply logic here. It's not going to work.
Fair.
I'm wise to your tricks now. This is not a place for logic. This movie does not care about your facts, okay? Only your feelings. So this is the point where it's also definitively revealed that Noah is Lucas's father. He had a fling with Rachel. Apparently, no emotional recognition or acting to even suggest that he recognized that Amanda wasn't Rachel when he got called out to the Weller household in the first fucking place and saw his own kid for the first time. It's a weird twist that they did not put any work into before they went with it. I'm not sure that they committed to it until they got to the point where they were writing this scene.
Yeah, so, no planting for that payoff at all.
No, they did not sow, but they really tried to reap here. So Cross and crew, as I like to refer to them, continue until they get essentially to an irradiated zone. There's a little gate along the roadway with warning, danger, blah, blah, blah. And they open it up and they continue along. Now we get a weird cryptic conversation between Baldy and Porter, who are still hot on their tail somehow. And it's cryptic. I didn't write down any of the shit verbatim, but it's suggested that there is a bigger secret being kept than just the New Eden shit. But this is the only setup for elements that are going to be very important to the conclusion of the film. But Baldy does say, hey, by the way, in case you haven't noticed yet, we're the baddies. We're definitely on the wrong side of history here. And Porter is just like, oh.
Yeah, he says you can't kill 7 million people and be on the right side of history.
Or you can't do that and keep it a secret or something like that. But it's all it's cryptic without any thought put behind it. They're not crafting. They're just flailing in the water here. So
it does have large high school creative writing class energy at this point.
It's this sounds poignant as long as you don't think about it at all. So Noah and crew come upon the cooling towers that they were warned about, where they're supposed to start taking the iodine. They take the iodine and fire up the Geiger counter, but it's just reading basic background levels of radiation. They think, oh, it must be dead. So they swap out the batteries, and no, it's still just reading background radiation. So no radiation from the failing of the power plant. That appears to have been a lie of some sort. They continue driving, and we actually see green trees at this point, which I didn't pay close enough attention. There was desert scraggle and shit like this. I'm not sure if this is the first time we've seen living trees or not, but
I believe so.
It's the
I was
intent.
kind of looking out for that after the intro explaining that it's a natural disaster has basically made it impossible for a vegetation to grow. As soon as those trees showed up, I was like, Canada.
There you go. Lucas does have a pretty funny line here, which cracked me up. He's like, oh, maybe we're dead and we just don't know it yet. And hell is filled with green trees. Pretty funny. The Bureau is hot on their trail still, and their car dies and they have to hoof it the rest of the way. They're clearly at the Canadian border. They're at some minor little like patrol station, but it is empty. So they run past it. Now they're clearly on Canadian soil, but they get held up by Baldy and some goons that are with him. Now, the movie does a bunch of things unceremoniously, and it just does not resonate or have the impact that you would think. The only time this does work, actually gave me a holy shit moment, is at this point, Agent Baldy just fucking kills Amanda Rachel, just shoots her right in the head with no preamble. It is so quick. I'm like, it actually stopped me up. I was like, what the fuck is this? Are we at a dream sequence? Is this a real like main supporting character death out of nowhere and they're just rolling with it? And the answer is yeah, they're just fucking rolling with it.
And this is where I started seeing the Cormac McCarthy vibe really kind of kick in.
I agree entirely. So Noah tries to get some sort of humanity out of Agent Baldy, who seems to capitulate to a certain extent and lets Lucas run off in exchange for Noah handing over the data chip that has this information about New Eden on it. It also occurs to me that because I didn't put it in my notes because I didn't pay attention very closely at this point, we have to rewind about 40 minutes because at some point on their journey, Cross gave Lucas a lucky rabbit's foot on a necklace, basically. And they reference it 2 other times in the film. Once when he's showing off to the feral teenagers, and once when Noah asks him if he has his lucky rabbit's foot still, and Lucas affirms that he does.
Well, then he specifically tells him, don't lose it.
Yes. So Agent Baldy lets Lucas run off. They take the data card from Noah and try and read it on their super holographic smartphones, but it comes up as having no data on it. Noah closes his eyes, and Baldy shoots him in the head, very unceremoniously.
With a very funny CGI gunshot, like the hole just appears. It's very good.
God, I hate CGI fucking gun action. It looks so bad all of the time. And also the blood splatter doesn't make any damn sense for when he falls. Because it should just be like blood pooling up around his head, but it actually has like that cone fucking pattern around Nick Cage.
Also, the entry wound is they literally just dabbed some fake blood in the middle of his forehead. That's it. That's all you got. Now, Lucas, being an absolute fucking idiot, runs back to where all the goons are and starts lobbing rocks at them. It looks like Lucas is about to meet his end, and then all of a sudden, basically all of the goons except for Baldy and Porter get shot, and then Baldy gets he gets shot as well. So now it's just Porter, who drops his gun and runs away. Lucas cries over the dead bodies of his sort of maybe parents. He doesn't know anything about Amanda not being his mother, and doesn't know that Noah was his father at any point. None of this shit was revealed to him at all. So turns out there were Canadian Rangers in the mountains, and the one who took the kill shots references is like, oh yeah, that was definitely Noah Cross that got shot to death before I killed the guys that were going to shoot him.
Which that's what threw me off. Did I miss something? How did he know that was Noah Cross?
No, you didn't miss anything. It's never explained.
You missed it intentionally. So before we get to the final reveals and wrap-ups and all of that good stuff, you know what I want to talk about? Products. Can we talk about some products?
Sure. I like Tide. I like dish soap.
How else are you going to get your dishes clean? Really?
I enjoy Quaker Oats.
Quaker Oats.
Quaker, you're treading dangerously close to Amish territory, but I'm gonna allow it because they're peaches and cream, like those little packets. I enjoy those.
Oh, you see, I buy the oats in bulk and then take a little bit of maple syrup and some brown sugar, mix that all together. Maple brown sugar at home, baby.
They're also great for sopping up grease in a cast iron. Quaker, get at us.
Yeah, two things that should sponsor us. Quaker as well as Raid Shadow Legends, because they're everywhere.
I was gonna say, what else can we do?
Naruto gotcha game. I'm fucking chill for that, even though it's bad.
I was gonna say, what else? Who else buys up all of this random ad space? There's like Raycon or weird mattresses or
yeah, it's like it's like
online
purple
therapists.
mattresses, online therapists, true crime podcasts. I think that's really it. I think that's really like the 3 markets you need to corner. Well, the 4, because the 4th is Raid Shadow Legends.
Raid Shadow Legends, and you can't forget like meal prep kits. Those are always big.
Oh, Baker buckets
or fucking Blue Apron, whatever the hell that's called.
Oh man, shit. My favorite thing about Blue Apron was when people were convinced they had a child hunting island.
Oh yeah, what happened to that?
That was a good bit. That went way too far.
I must have missed that one. I'd only tuned in for the Wayfarer. They're sending you kids in their cabinetry or some shit.
Robert Evans did he did like this thing where he would bleep out the name, but then talk about a child hunting island. And then one time they forgot to bleep out the name and it was Blue Apron. and people,
you know what? I think we did talk about this previously.
Yeah. And people, for some reason, I don't know why, it's fucking Robert Evans, took him seriously. And they were just like, yeah, we can't do that bit anymore. You ruined it.
That's kind of hilarious.
Anyway, buy some Blue Apron.
Yeah, whatever they're advertising, I don't know. Throw them some bucks if it makes sense. If it's something reprehensible, obviously we don't endorse it.
Yeah, but you can also throw us some bucks at patreon.com/NickCageFight. Well, we'll actually give you things
that we do endorse. All of our Nick Cage movies are ethically sourced. That is also absolutely not true. But it's okay. We do an honest day's work. That's let's just leave it at that. It's worth your money.
Oh, we're back. I just had a big snack of ethically sourced Nick Cage movies.
Yeah, let's put a bow on this fucking thing. So Noah's dead, Rachel Amanda's dead, and Lucas is in the unforgiving hands of a bunch of Canadians. What's going on?
Well, they're going to teach him how to play hockey. They're going to feed him poutine.
So really just
he's going to get health care.
Yeah, no, that's fucking awesome. All of us should be this lucky. So apparently what Noah did, if you didn't catch it from us fucking up, well, me personally specifically fucking up, not mentioning the fucking Lucky Rabbit's foot earlier, Noah realized after he saw what was on that disc that it was absolutely nuclear in nature. So he hid the real disc or chip or whatever in the Lucky Rabbit's foot and gave it to Lucas, assuming for whatever fucking reason Lucas would survive. It doesn't make sense to me, but it did play out that way. So who's to say who's dumb? He also apparently at this point, it is implied, it is never showed, Noah had some capacity or ability or resource to contact the Canadians and warn them that he was going to be trying to deliver some important information about weirdo New America to them.
My only guess is that it was somehow through an organization associated with the elevator porter. Not the character porter, the guy who is the porter in the elevator.
Yeah, would have to be, because the implications at the end of this film make no fucking sense.
No, which is why, like, I don't think it was the elevator guy, because the elevator guy knew that New Eden was a death camp. The Canadians had no fucking idea.
Maybe. Regardless, what happens is the Canadians help disseminate the footage and plans and all the proof that New Eden is essentially a concentration camp. And they get this broadcast into America somehow. Don't ask how. The movie hasn't thought that far ahead. And it triggers a revolution among the American people. Agent Porter, on his way back to Humanity Bureau headquarters, gets stopped up by a train of revolutionaries led by the old lady who sold across the station wagon, who shoots him dead with a double barrel shotgun. And that's basically the end. Like, we get some clips, like some news clips of this information being disseminated, and then people gearing up for revolution. We even get the
by painting
old...
revolution on the side of shit, which is obviously how you gotta prep for a fucking revolution.
Well, how else are the other revolutionaries going to know you're one of them? You got to paint it real big, man.
Yeah,
it's the equivalent of a battle flag. But yeah, so even
do this.
Yeah, even the German guy and his feral teens are going down to the city because they got a revolution to do. This is the end of the film. So let's talk about implications here real quick, right? So the radiation shit was a lie to sort of keep people sequestered in America. So my read on that was the American Civil War resulted in, nuclear weaponry being used on American soil, but the rest of the world kind of didn't absolutely shit the bed with the other crises that were happening, which was global warming leading to a mass migration crisis, from the global south, or really the equator, sort of streaming towards the poles. But shit is growing in Canada. Like, it seems fine.
I would agree with you, except for the fact that when they got to the border, like, there was no border patrol. I guess except unless you call the sniper.
Yeah, except for the ranger who fucking wipes out the Humanity Bureau people. But the one single border station with the little road blocking arm isn't actually manned when they arrive at it.
And also, like, if climate change is the issue, how did climate change know to only hit the United States?
Well, this I'm willing to gloss over a little bit, because the way climate change actually works is you have a general warming, and then you have more extreme weather events as a result of the warming. But all of that shit is going to be concentrated primarily around the equator, around the Earth. And what it's going to cause, as far as mass migration is concerned, is people streaming out of that band. So the migration crisis is one of the big things that climate scientists and people who look at the potential impacts of shit like this on society would mention is this mass migration. And in fact, one of the concerns about America's increasingly militant border is that, essentially the suits in Washington do see the writing on the walls here. And eventually they fully intend to utilize a very brutal control of the border, stopping people trying to get in, because America itself is not going to be impacted as heavily as early when, the consequences of global warming come a knocking. Like, Florida's probably going to get hit.
I guess what I'm saying is that when they're going into Canada, the kid even mentions that, there's trees. So they have been driving through America and there has been nothing. And the minute they hit that imaginary border, there's vegetation.
Well, I think the idea, and this is why I'm going with my reading of it, is that you have to figure no more than maybe 2 nuclear weapons actually got set off in the continental US when all of this shit went down. But the fallout just stopped at a certain point. What's weird, though, is nobody in New America is taking iodine tablets or anything like that. They're just not drinking the water.
Right, and I always thought that was maybe like a failure of weird. I thought it was like a failure of infrastructure more than anything.
I think maybe they didn't play enough fucking Fallout. They didn't bother to learn anything about nuclear fallout at all. And so they don't do it upright. They figured they obviously incorrectly condensed the timeline to a huge degree. And I guess they wanted to set it up like, oh, well, most of it's fine, but nothing grows and you can't drink the water normally. I don't know. But Canada itself seems fine. They still have rangers working. They still have green vegetation. So I think what we're supposed to take from it is America kind of devoured itself and then locked all of its citizens into a landmass with no real sustainable resources. And when they realized they couldn't feed the entire population, started getting rid of undesirables in a concentration camp. But none of that stands up to even the most moderate amount of scrutiny as to the logic behind it.
So this entire movie, as I'm reading it, is just a giant piece of Canadian propaganda.
Bunch of liberal bullshit.
I mean, movie was made in Canada. It probably got those sweet ass Canada movie making tax cuts. Shit tons of movies are made in Vancouver just because of the tax break.
Yeah, like this movie probably didn't even have to make a profit. It already had its profit coming out.
It was the producers.
Oh, I guess I got to double check. Maybe this was made by like the Canadian fucking Film Board or some shit, because they do actually finance films consistently.
I mean, I shouldn't say I wouldn't be surprised, because I would be, because this movie is awful. But like at the end, it is just kind of like, hey, you're in Canada now, hey, so you're safe.
Yeah, it's weird. It's borrowing, like it had decent elements of world building, but all of them seem to be cribbed from stories that did it better, right? We made allusions to Fallout, The Road, throw in the television version adaptation of Handmaid's Tale, where America is this isolated
Theocracy.
well, this isolated superpower that's essentially in its death throes. But at least in those other examples, there's explanatory reasons. Thin, thick, it doesn't matter. There's still an explanation. This movie was like, where we're going, we don't need explanations. So they set up some interesting elements, but they don't justify any of them. And that's frustrating to me personally.
Yeah, like I said, as somebody who enjoys movies with deep lore, post-apocalyptic, dystopian, like fascist government movies, like this movie was heading directly up my alley, and they just missed so hard. And I am somebody who played and enjoyed Fallout 3.
Yeah. Look,
that's how hard I go on this shit. And like this just missed the mark so hard for me.
It did, because it didn't bother, like I said, it didn't bother to justify any of its elements. All of the story beats were sort of sloppily compiled. It was disjointed in a lot of ways. And when they wrote themselves into a corner, they just knocked the wall down. Not a great film.
Right. Like, we don't say this often, but this is a film where I would not have minded an extra 25, 30 minutes of establishing backstory of, how are these wastelands different than the cities, or the city of New America, if that's what we're calling it.
I
what
would
are
just
the
like a little bit
differences?
of mystery to it. Like, there's no mystery to anything in this movie. Even though there are reveals, there's nothing actually dragging you through it other than it just being a kind of okay sci-fi road movie. But like, yeah, it did need to explain some more stuff, but I don't think they really had it in them to do so.
No, this reminds me of there's an episode of Community which I know Josh has not seen, but Ryan may have. Do you watch Community, Ryan?
I've seen every episode of Community.
Okay. You remember in season 6 when they have the footage of Chang, so they make the movie, and the guy says it has to be exactly 78 minutes, and they run it and they say it's 81. He's like, okay, cut 3 minutes because that's be exactly 78 minutes.
Right.
That's what this movie kind of feels like, that it had to be an exact length and they cut out stuff.
See, I disagree, because I think I don't disagree with your premise that if they took more time to flesh it out, it would be fine. I don't think they had any flesh. They came to this with just bones. And so
skin over bones, so that there's nothing left for Johnny.
Exactly.
Right. So the reason, callback. So the reason why I do say that is the scene in the car when the kid just starts playing with fire, as if, and they're acting like all the people around him are acting as if this is a consistent thing, like he likes fire. And it's never mentioned before. It's never brought up again. And that's what makes me think that they must have cut things out of this movie.
At the very least, they should have explained to the kid that, like, in such a resource scarce society, just burning matches for no apparent reason is a dumb shit idea.
So, Rich, I think you're doing the same thing as Ryan and giving that a generous reading. I think that scene, combined with all of the rest of the scenes with the kid, was that they couldn't pick a lane they wanted the kid to occupy.
It was awful. It was that whole scene is a microcosm of this movie.
Yes.
of the kid plays 6 characters in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Where they couldn't decide what they wanted him to be. Did they want him to be like, I had thought they were setting him up as this smart kid when they left, when they were running out of the house, because the first thing he says, well, what about my books? And Nick Cage says you can bring one. And I'm like, okay, maybe they're setting him up to be smart, and it never comes back. Maybe they're setting him up to be talented, like a talent, like an acting talent with he's been rehearsing for this school play, and it never comes back. It's just
It made me think of, like, I don't know if you guys are fans of it. I read the comic series. It's almost like they were setting him up as like a Carl from The Walking Dead, like a kid growing up in a dystopia, setting up like a new generation who understands the radically changed world better than anybody who had any memory of the previous world could be. But they hit all of, like, they pulled from elements that span like 300 fucking individual comics and just mash them into maybe 10 minutes of screen time. So it comes off very disjointed, or like they didn't have a real direction established in their own minds when they set out to write the film. All that being said, I will agree with Ryan that it was entertaining to watch. It's like eating shitty food, right? You eat a whole mess of shitty fast food, and for a while it's going great, and then you have to deal with the consequences of it, and that's not great. And that's basically where the movie leaves you, with a gut full of Taco Bell and regrets.
I don't know. I don't think it was long enough to have really regrets about watching it. I'll watch anything that's an hour and a half. And as long as it's got a couple of entertaining scenes, I won't consider it a complete loss. I think I mentioned it in the first episode. This did give me like 70s exploitation movie vibes. This seems like the kind of thing that would play at a drive-in in like 1976, like double featured with a bad Jaws ripoff.
Sure. My thing is, and the reason why I don't like films like this is it's an unsquared circle in storytelling sticks in my brain and makes me feel uncomfortable. And that's what this was. Like, it set up a bunch of stuff. There were no payoffs. It just sort of dropped twists and turns on you with no setup. There's no catharsis in this story whatsoever.
I think that is where we kind of diverge in our approach to viewing cinema. You mentioned that you can't really deal with an unfinished melody. I'm much like the opposite of that. I like finding like compilations of fragments by a songwriter. I find that like an unfinished idea can be interesting in its own way. And this is an unfinished idea of a movie.
If it sets the hooks, right? Like, if you set the hooks and you give me an ambiguous ending, I'll dig it. I'll literally dig into it. I'll look at, prevailing thought. I'll argue with people about it, talk about it, and flesh out what my opinion of it is at that point. This isn't trying to do that. This isn't the what was it, the story about the tiger behind the door.
Oh, the Lady and the Tiger.
The Lady and the Tiger. There's no element to set up, hey, this ending is supposed to be ambiguous, and you, the viewer, have a responsibility to work through what makes sense to you afterwards, and that is part of the enjoyment.
Well,
that is not what's happening here.
No, that's absolutely not what's happening. But I don't think that's really what I was saying it is either. Like, when I say like fragmentary pieces of music, what I'm talking about it is something someone started working on and then just stopped. There wasn't an actual intentionality of ambiguity at the ending of it. It's just something somebody never actually finished before they either passed or before it went to press or what have you. I find art that is explicitly unfinished and unintentionally ambiguous to be interesting in that way.
I get that. I accept that. I don't know if this film deserves a spot amongst other examples that you could name.
No, probably not. But like I said, I had a good time watching it, so I can't hate it.
Yeah, that being said, I'm not putting it at the bottom of my list.
No, it's better than Next.
It's better than Knowing.
Definitely better than Next.
Yeah, it's better than those two movies, definitely.
Yeah, it's out of the sci-fi Nick Cage we've watched. I think this is our best sci-fi film.
Yeah. I'd put it above knowing, and I wouldn't put it too far above knowing, but it's better than knowing, it's better than next, it's better than the Drek.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely put it over knowing, just out of pure entertainment standpoint, because
I would too. I
Yeah.
would watch this again. I would never watch knowing again under any circumstance.
I can see myself rewatching knowing, but probably not for a long time. At least this has a dude that looks like Lex Luthor bandaging himself with bread.
Yeah, I'll give it that. Also, the bread scene is probably the most unhinged part of it.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, there's not an unhinged Nick Cage scene.
No.
Which is weird, because he's got a gun and he shoots a guy at the beginning, and that is like one of the least unhinged things that happens.
Yeah, like there's people drinking their own piss.
There's people talking about people drinking their own piss.
Yeah,
it's all just like
talk.
derogatory. It's like, I feel bad about that old guy that I shot. He's like, he probably drank his own piss.
And
piss drinkers.
Listen, we don't kink shame here.
I will say this, and I do agree with you, but that puts it just on my list of overall rankings. If we all agree, what that would do would be to put it just behind USS Indianapolis and above knowing G-Force Christmas Carol and Next.
I'd put it above USS Indianapolis.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Sizemore?
Yeah.
Sizemore was a shining, glorious light in the middle of that turd of a film. Also, like the court-martial stuff at the end is kind of neat, but like still, I think this is a more cohesive film than USS Indianapolis.
Sizemore was the light through the glory hole.
I have to disagree. I think I would watch USS Indianapolis again before I'd watch Humanity Bureau again.
I'd watch the Sizemore cut. Just give me all the Sizemore scenes again.
Yeah, but that's fine. You're wrong, but that's fine.
That's fine. You're wrong, but it is also fine.
I'm wrong about a lot of things.
It was entertaining for what it was, which again was a bad film. But hey, man, we're trying to find the little nuggets, and there's some elements in this film that make it worth watching, and then there are other elements where you could just do with our play-by-play for it. That decision, of course, ultimately is up to you, listener.
Yeah, we can only guide you there. We can't make you do anything.
I think it's about that time. Rich, do you want to walk us through the rankings?
I thought we were stopped doing the rankings, with the exception of maybe like the hair.
So here's the thing is, I had mentioned last time that we are 22 movies in, and we are all three very different people.
Now.
Well, yeah, now no, this is 24 actually. 23 was Kick-Ass. This is 24.
Yes, correct.
We are three different people with three wildly different takes of things that we enjoy, outside of, like, we all agreed that Moonstruck was the best. We all agreed that, like, a combination of Next and Christmas Carol was the bottom two. Like, I fucking loved Kill Chain.
Yeah, Kill Chain was
like
good.
Kill Chain was good.
It made it into my top 5.
Just outside my top 5.
Yeah, same on that.
But like Ryan enjoyed Between Worlds way more than both of us.
Not any of the critics.
It was a good movie.
No, it was good, but Ryan, that's Ryan's like ride or die at this point.
Yeah.
I think it's only going to get better every time I watch it with each subsequent Nick Cage movie that we watch.
I fucking hated 8mm. And you guys had it ranked like way higher than I did.
It was a good flick. It could have been a great flick, but it was still a good flick.
I got enough entertainment out of it that I could justify putting it as high as I did.
I agree.
Right. And like this, I'm not here to critique anybody, but what I'm saying is that we're going to stop doing the live rankings just because I feel like we pigeonhole a lot of what we think, because in the moment we all agree. It's like, we should put this here. And then we all had wildly different lists.
I think that's funny, but we do still have to talk about the hair. It's one of our staples.
Yeah, I think we got to at least rank the hair, because
how did
that's
you
usually
feel about the hair?
It's bad. It's
It
boring.
is bad hair.
Yeah, I was going lower mid tier.
Yeah.
Yeah, lower mid makes sense. He had some wicked sideburns, and he had a little bump at the top, not a pompadour, but it looks like they used his real hairline, gave him a little snooky bump up top, and solid sideburns.
Yeah, like
That
it's
deserves some
right
credit.
about it's right around like Gone in 60 Seconds to me.
Yeah, that tracks.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like that. I feel like that's good.
Yeah, I have no complaints about that.
Yeah, lower mid tier hair. God, what are we watching next? Hang on.
That's a good question.
I have to do the thing with the stuff. All right, here we go. I don't know how y'all are gonna feel about this because I don't know how I feel about this.
All right, what do you got for us?
City of Angels.
I think I remember liking that one. I can't remember though.
I've never seen it. I remember it was the first movie he did after the Holy Trinity, back when, he kind of became a big name again, like a big name in action. And this was his foray back into like dramatic roles. And I just remember that people were like, oh, they already made this movie with John Travolta, funny enough.
Oh, it's the remake of the Wim Wenders Wings of Desire movie.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. All right. So yeah, it's about angels. It's not about Los Angeles. It's about angels.
Well, I think it's about angels, but I also think that it's like located in Los Angeles. I don't know. We'll find out we'll find out this week.
Oh my God. It's about an angel and a doctor, and they fall in love, and it's based on a German screenplay.
Yeah. Wim Wenders is Wings of Desire, which is a great film, actually.
Okay. The director did Casper and the 2004 series of Unfortunate Events. I don't know what that's supposed to tell us.
No, I'm gonna look this up too, actually. When was it made? Like 98?
98.
Yeah, 98. Screenplay. She hasn't really done anything. She did write The World Is Not Enough. For Love of the Game. Okay, so I think that she writes kind of
Wait, the
like
writer?
like the writer. I think that she writes kind of like these super melodramatic, like purposely tearjerker kind of stuff. Like For Love of the Game was like a baseball movie that was kind of like a tearjerker.
Yeah, I'm looking at the director. Director did a lot of TV shit, but did Casper and
Lemony Snicket.
yeah, the movie series of Unfortunate Events. A lot of TV.
Yeah, did some Jane the Virgin, which I liked. It's a lot, that fucking show.
NYPD Blue, Felicity, Judging Amy, all small number of episode runs. Doogie Howser, MD. This is gonna be interesting, man.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This is gonna be interesting.
Also, Meg Ryan, whatever happened to her?
Didn't we have this conversation?
We did have this conversation before. I don't know if
We're
it was
always
on
gonna
air
have
or
this
not.
conversation.
Where like she didn't really fade. It was kind of like she just kind of didn't want to do it anymore, I don't think, because she wanted to do like independent films.
Hey, good for her.
And now she's directing. Let me see if I can. Where the fuck is her filmography? Why do I care about her political party? Why is that there?
Yeah, she directed a movie called Ithaca, and she produced a couple of things.
So
she was
here,
an
so
uncredited executive producer of The Wedding Planner.
So we have City of Angels, You Got Mail, Hanging Out Proof of Life, Kate and Leopold.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Well, yeah, no, I was kind of, so we have Kate and Leopold in 2001, which I remembered was like a big deal. But then after that, she did a movie in 03, 04, 07, 2008, 2009, 2015, and then she was in Top Gun Maverick, and that's really it.
Huh.
So yeah, it looks like she just maybe got burnt out with acting. And if she did, like, cool, I get it.
Well, I'm interested. Robin Bartlett shows up in this too, apparently. So
Robin Bartlett, I hated her in The West Wing. That's a joke because the president's name was Bartlett. Yeah.
I was gonna say you loved her in Moonstruck.
I sure did. No, I just hate the West Wing and everything it stands for.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, this is definitely not up my alley. I probably wouldn't be watching this if it wasn't on our list.
No, definitely not.
So whatever, I'll strap in. I'm down. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, let's fucking do this. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the German original too.
I might actually do the same because for these remakes, I do like to get a sense of the original.
The original is beautifully shot. I don't remember much about it other than like a couple of still images that are very striking, but it's very well regarded.
Well, I'm gonna watch it and figure it out.
Yep. Let's do it. All right. Let's call it. I think we did this one to death. We're excited about City of Angels. God damn, it's a fucking 2-hour movie. Yep. All right. But yay, listen. In the meantime, maybe check us out on Twitter at cagefight_pod.
And also on Patreon, patreon.com/NickCageFight. $3 a month gets you episodes without ads, as well as other tiers that will get you additional podcasts where we review other movies. And we've been saying it for months. I think I'm just going to make it official. We're watching The Wrestler like this weekend, and we're going to talk about it.
Yes, I'm just making it official. It'll be up on the Patreon within the next 7 to 10 days.
Sounds good to me.
There you go. We're locked in.
Perfect. All right. I think we're done here then.
Absolutely. As always, listener, we appreciate you.
Bye-bye.